don't know how to record an intro, so we're just going straight in. This is a pink cloud acrylic painting tutorial. This is the first time ever I've tried to record a real-time painting tutorial. Normally I time-lapse it and they're over the course of days and days and days and take hours and hours and hours, but I wanted to try something that only took me about a half hour. So as you can tell, I just decided to start recording a little bit late in the painting, but all I'm doing here is putting on a blue sky outline to try and show where my cloud is going to be. I have a dark blue background on before that. You don't need that. I just happen to have a little piece of wood that I already had a little bit of blue on and just wanted to use that shape. That's a piece of MDF board that I cut into a little shape. I think this guy's about a 2 inch by 3 inch little painting. I'm not exactly sure. But what I'm doing is I'm just mixing up some of the colors. I put like a very, very light blue. You can see I just use basically primary colors to paint. You don't really need like a specific color as long as you have a red, a blue, yellow, and then what I think is super important for painting pink clouds is magenta. You can see I used a smidge of magenta and add a little bit of red to get the color I'm mixing right now. And it really gives it pretty pinky purple color that you can't get from just normal red and white. I feel like when it comes to painting pink clouds, magenta is the #1 color that you need to get that color. Yeah, see I'm going in with that again. And I love it. Add a little bit of red to warm it up a smidge, but that magenta color is just so beautiful for pink clouds. So I'm mixing this up. I'm putting on a base layer of pink to work on top of. Oh, one thing to mention, this is important, this is acrylic paint. I'm using acrylic paint for this. I decided to use acrylic paint instead of oil paint for this tutorial because when I want to get something done quickly, oil paints are harder for me to achieve on a fast-paced time frame. With acrylics, they dry much, much quicker than oils. Oils can take days and days and days. So I want to do something that is a little bit easier for me to sit down and do in one session. And I've also had a lot of requests to do acrylic painting tutorials. I don't use acrylic paint nearly as much as I use oil paints. I really, really like using oil paint to paint clouds because you can blend when it's still wet the colors together so it's soft and fluffy, and you can really get those cloud puffs looking just like so gentle and beautiful. And it is a little more difficult to do with acrylics because it dries so fast. It's hard to get that blending. But we're attempting it with this one, and it's not impossible. Like I've done some clouds that I love with acrylic paints that I've gotten some really cool blends on, but it is a little trickier. But we're going for it in this one. So I have this light pink layer that I've put on top of that like weird blue that I had just as like a background. And it looks like now I'm trying to mix a darker pink. Ooh, adding a smidge of blue to try and get some purpley tones. Whoa, God, that color is awful. What am I? Oh, that's so bad. Okay, I'm trying to figure it out now. That was terrible. Okay, you can see I'm like ignoring that weird red brown, and I'm desperately trying to get this paint color back to where I wanted it to go. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, no, put more magenta on there. I made a mistake. Sometimes that happens. Color mixing for me is the most important part of getting your painting to look exactly the way you want it to. So when you're painting, I would highly, highly recommend taking as much time as you want to mix your colors to get them exactly the way you want. See, now I'm like, okay, I like that pink. I'm going on and adding some shadow to the darker parts of the little pink cloud. I'm kind of just going in willy-nilly. I'm not using a reference photo for this guy. This is out of my own imagination. I'm kind of just painting on some little areas where I think maybe there will be some shadow. Definitely the lower parts of the cloud, because they curve in different places. Sometimes the middle of the cloud's gonna have some shadow, sometimes little lines are gonna have shadow. So I'm kind of just putting it on wherever and I'll work with it from there. Guess I'm doing nothing. What are you doing? Get back to painting. There we go. Ooh. So now after I put on that very cursory layer of blue, I'm going back in and making it the exact color I want it to be and making sure that there isn't any see-through from that dark blue I had originally on that little board. So I'm just cleaning it up, painting it on. Also, you can see the brush I'm using is like the cheapest little brush. I think I got a pack of I want to say like 30 of these exact brushes for maybe $4 at Ross. I never use expensive brushes. I use exclusively cheap brushes. I don't feel like you need expensive materials to make your paints great. Oh, so now what I'm doing, I'm trying to create a little bit of a gradient. I'm adding some lighter colors to the lower part of the sky, and it gets just a tiny bit darker as I go up. You'll often, when you look at the sky, you'll see that closer to the horizon, things are a little bit lighter, but as you move up, it gets to more of a blue. I'm trying to achieve that here. We'll see how it goes. And also, I'm recording this way after the fact, so I can't remember how I did any of this. I recorded this video part a long time ago, and now I'm going back and doing the audio because I've been so busy because I had a show, which went wonderful, and I had some people come and see me that follow me on Instagram, and it was like so amazing, and they were so nice, and I had so many friends and family come to support me, and it was a dream come true. Actually, this little painting is there right now. The show's going till March, and this little guy is available. So I'm still trying to create that gradient. You saw I added a little bit of blue to that mixture I had of the light color. Just very slowly build up the layers of gradient to try and match the top layer. Little bits at a time. This part takes a lot of patience. Gradients take lots and lots of patience. This is another area where let yourself take the time to make this the way you want it. And it looks like the gradient isn't quite as visible as it could be. It looks like I'm trying to go in and fix that. Yeah, adding a little more blue, putting at the top, try and get that color that I want. You can't quite tell from the video, but there is a slight gradient there. It's very subtle. Very subtle, but sometimes something that's subtle makes a huge difference to you in your painting. Something where you know you've put that detail that is so small seemingly for the grand scale of the painting makes a huge difference. It's like those little things that make you fall in love with the piece you're making. So I recommend taking your time, doing it exactly the way you want to do it, not rushing too much. Also, if you are using this tutorial along with me, pause it when you need to. I'm kind of just going with the flow, maybe check what my ending painting looks like so that you can see the direction you're going. I'm kind of just messing around and going with stuff, but if you want to take a break, spend a little extra time that I'm not spending, go for it. Pause it. Spend extra time. You don't need to do it at the exact pace that I'm doing it. So now it looks like I made a really, really light pink, almost white color, and I'm adding on where I think some highlights on this cloud should be. Now, again, I'm not using a reference photo, so I'm kind of just touching areas lightly and exploring and figuring out where I want those highlights to be. The cool thing with painting clouds is that they're organic, so they don't have a specific shape. All clouds are different, they never look the same, so you can kind of make clouds when you're painting them however you want, whatever shape you want. Though, that being said, it can be difficult. The way to get clouds to look more realistic is having a little bit of an idea of how color works in them and how shadow works on them. So, because I've painted clouds a lot, I am very familiar with the way they work. I'm pretty familiar with the way they work. I kind of have an idea after looking at so many photos, painting them a million times, how they work, where the shadows are, what colors the shadows tend to be, how the highlights tend to be. So I kind of am familiar with it. It might take you more time to be able to just out of your head create a cloud image, but just follow along with what I'm doing if you are doing this, and kind of just go wherever. I'm kind of just globbing paint on wherever I feel like it, and from there I'm going to build it up into this cloud. So now I'm darkening that pink color. It looks like I'm doing the next gradient down from the highlight. Oh my gosh, I'm holding this mic and it hurts my hand so bad. There we go. I'm trying to make this video like kind of relaxing. You can chill and listen to my voice and watch this painting, but I'm also going at the same time, so I don't know what I'm wanting. It's nice to just be able to talk and not have to worry about painting at the same time. I don't know if I'll keep all this in, but this way I don't have to worry about my visual visual focus and my audio focus. It's hard to paint and talk at the same time. I love the way Bob Ross do it. Bob Ross has been a really big inspiration for me, legitimately. I kind of started painting using Bob Ross videos, but it's difficult to talk and paint at the same time, so I applaud him on that. It's definitely something that I'm still working on and wanting to improve on. This is kind of nice to be able to talk and have my video pre-recorded so I can just talk over it and talk about the details and my thought process going back to it. Looks like now I'm adding an even darker little layer, just where the shadows are behind the little peaks. The peaks of the cloud have those highlights on it. It's just like the edges where the sun is hitting. And then within those peaks, inside those areas that start to curve down, that's where you get the shadow. So that's what I'm building up now. Just kind of adding those areas where I think a little more shadow parts will be. Now I'm creating an even darker pink, very dark, add that magenta, add a little bit of red, and I'm using it as a mid-tone for the clouds, kind of defining where the bigger shadow areas are. Those other shadow areas didn't have quite as much definition as this one. This one I'm really going in and deciding where the shadows are, as opposed to deciding earlier where I wanted the light to be. And sometimes I change my mind. Some areas I'm kind of like going like, oh no, I actually want that to be a shadowed area instead of a light area, and I'm going over it, I'm feeling it out. I'm not worried about making mistakes because I can just paint over it. The cool thing with acrylics is that it's gonna dry like that so fast. I almost snapped, but I didn't know if it would feel good on the audio. Dry like that. I would recommend to not fully painting over the painting, because sometimes you do that in exasperation. Oh god, my heater just kicked in. Hold on, I'm gonna turn it off. Heater! Shut up! Come on. I have this like app that I'm waiting for. Okay. Now I'm going with the most shadowy area, making the more purpley kind of color, but still warm with that red. Yeah. And defining the darkest parts. What was I saying earlier about? What was I saying earlier? Really defining those dark, shadowy areas. You can see I'm kind of changing my mind in some areas, and I'm painting over areas that I thought would be a highlight area. But now that I've got this shadow, I'm redeciding that now I want it to be shadowed. And you don't really, it doesn't matter because acrylics dry so fast. Ooh, just smacked the camera, I guess. Move that back, girl. Jeez Louise. Because what was I talking about? Flip! God, I can't remember. Shoot. Oh, because acrylics dry so fast, you don't have to worry about making a mistake. You just let it dry for a minute and then go over it with whatever you want to change it. I'm using a little bit of water here just to blend some of those areas I had earlier, areas that haven't dried yet, just kind of softening them a bit. This is how I do a blending method when it comes to acrylics, because with oils that take so long to dry, I can blend whenever I want. But when it comes to acrylics, I kind of get color on quickly, get a tiny, tiny bit of water on my brush, and then blend out those areas to soften them up. So the only thing on my brush right now is just like a little bit of water, and I'm just rubbing these areas together to get them to blend just a tiny bit. You can see I do that. Just blending it together. Moving from the highlight areas to the shadowed areas so the colors don't get too muddy. Kind of focus in one area and then move with it. If you end up getting frustrated with the painting that you're doing, I would recommend not painting over it entirely if you're frustrated. I would continue to build up your layers until it's at a place that's making you feel like you're going in the direction you want. Sometimes it's really easy to just be like, I don't like it, I'm giving up. It's a lot more productive though to see that you're making mistakes and improve on them. And acrylic painting gives you that opportunity very quickly because it dries so fast. Oh, my stomach's growling. What if you? Oh shoot! It's 12 o'clock. I haven't had breakfast. Okay. I'll eat when I'm done recording. I can't eat right now. So now I'm going over some areas with a really soft, pretty pink. Ooh, you can't really, I wonder if you can tell. There's a little area at the very top of the cloud that kind of looks grayer than the other areas. That's an area where I didn't let the paint dry. I didn't let the paint dry for long enough. And I tried to paint over it before it was fully dry, and so all the paint picked up, and now that dark blue that I originally had is showing up. So I'm like trying to band-aid it by like tapping it with paint, but what I really need to do is let it dry. I think I'm gonna let that happen and then go back over it later. There's a couple areas where you can still see a little bit of that dark blue, and I'm trying to get rid of those. Mid-color of that highlight. This part's nice because I'm kind of defining where the little puff lines are before the highlights are there. It kind of gives you a good basis to work on top of when you put in your highlights. But you can add these like puffs that lead to little peaks, and that little peak is where the end of that puff is, if that makes any sense. Clouds are hard to describe. If you get these like perfect little lines, you can tell that there's like an individual dome on the cloud, and the clouds are covered in like many, many individual domes, so those little peaks that you create can really give life to your cloud. So I'm kind of painting over areas, just deciding what I like, what I don't like. Adding highlights to places that I once again thought I decided that I want shadow. Just making decisions wherever I feel like. Your cloud, if you're painting this with me, your cloud does not have to look like my cloud by any means. It can be different shapes, it can be different colors, it can be whatever you want, because this is just like an imagination cloud. No two cloud is ever going to look the same, so don't worry too much about exactly replicating what I'm doing. Just kind of feel it out and watch what I'm doing as a reference for how you're applying things. Right now I'm adding on more highlights. Nice little highlighted light pink colors to the very top of areas where I think the light will be hitting the most. I've definitely decided that the light is coming from the, hold on, I'm bad at my lefts and my rights. The right side of the painting, it's coming from that top right area, if say our cloud was in 3D space. And I decide where the light source is very early on in painting. I decided that when I first started applying the paint on there. I just forgot to talk about it, but choosing a light source when it comes to clouds, when it comes to painting anything, is super important if you're going for a realism kind of thing. Sometimes I like going for a surrealist kind of lighting, but right now I'm choosing a direction the light's coming from. I'm applying paint in the areas where I think the very peaks of this cloud are going to catch that light. Ooh, look at me, I'm going with an even lighter highlight color, just to really define those areas that are getting a lot of light. Here I have a little bit of water on again. I'm just blending in areas where that super highlight is going in with the rest of the cloud. It really is getting to a point where it's got a very cotton candy kind of look. Oop, I didn't like that part. I didn't like that part at all, and so I'm trying to wipe it out. But then I'm just deciding maybe to go with it. What am I doing? Oh, I just dropped my paintbrush in the yellow paint. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, I guess I'm cleaning that off now. Speaking of yellow, I didn't use the yellow at all in this piece. Not even a bit. You can maybe if you have a cooler red that you're using, but my red that I have on this palette is pretty warm, so I was able to get it looking the way I want it. Ooh, now I'm going in with some bright white and making some little stars and moons. I think I'm starting with the moon. Yeah, putting in just a little circle moon. I really, really love doing this. I don't know why I'm so drawn to it, but I'm fascinated by the idea of a sparkly sky in the daytime with the moon showing and just being able to see stars. It's just so pretty. I love trying to convey some kind of sparkling effect in my paintings with just flat matte paint. Look at those nails. Oh my gosh, I've got paint all over me. So I'm very, very softly working tiny, tiny little stars onto my sky. Make sure that when you're doing this, you're not making your stars too uniform. A lot of time when humans try and create something that's random, they end up putting things in equal distance away from each other and saying that that's random. But actually, the way randomness works in the real world is things are scattered without clumping. It's kind of weird. So kind of put them in places so you're actively not trying to put things equally spaced apart. Put some in clumps, put some far apart, just like set them all over the place. It's very easy to go overboard with the stars. I've definitely done that before, and sometimes you want that overboard star look, but I found that sometimes there can be too many stars for the look I'm going for. And so right now, I'm going for a sparkle effect. I'm creating a tiny little line, and then making a little cross. Kind of like a little sparkly diamond kind of thing. way I'm doing this is I'm getting my brush flat, like, yeah, pressing it flat. You can see me working over there with the white, trying to get to like a line, and then lightly dabbing that line onto the canvas. The wood, actually, it's not canvas. This one I'm making a little bit of a bigger sparkle. Very like Peter Pan, second star to the right kind of look. So that was that painting. It was really easy. That took about 25 minutes. This piece I went into with very vague intentions of what I actually wanted to make, but I just kind of felt it out and made whatever I was feeling. So if you try this tutorial, I would love to see it. I'm super active on Instagram, so if you post it, tag me, you can DM me. I would love seeing people use tutorials to make their own paintings. I have a bunch more tutorial videos on YouTube. I've been building it up slowly, trying to make a library of tutorials for people to use, particularly for cloud and water paintings. And I'm definitely gonna try and do some more of these real-time, Bob Ross style painting tutorials in the future, so we can have things that you can just sit down and paint along with if you're feeling it, or just, I don't know, listen to me talk for a half hour and watch something pretty be made. I don't know. Thanks for watching this video, and I will see you soon.